Hi YouTube, Darth here. Last week, community member Deleted asked me on Twitter how I felt about a particular variety of team balancing. I made my feelings known then, but I felt that I'd like to use the topic as a video this week. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about team balance and how servers handle team balancing. When I look for a server, I generally try to join a server that's not full. The reason being is that the only time people typically leave a game is if they are having a bad game or if they simply are out of time to play. Usually if somebody leaves during a match, it's probably a game that's going poorly. Nobody wants to be put on a team that is spawn trapped or down by 1,000 points. It can be interesting for the occasional challenge, but I don't think it's very fun to inherit somebody else's problems. Here's a typical situation. One team takes off to an early lead on Operation Locker with 4 or more flags captured. The other team's players don't want to fight an uphill battle, so they simply leave. If there's a queue, this will fill in the missing players. This is kind of a crappy situation since the new players are inheriting a problem that isn't theirs, but they don't have a whole lot invested in the game at this point. They can stick around or simply leave. But if there aren't enough players in queue, here's where some servers start to make questionable decisions. I like to refer to this as live balance or switching players during a round. Let's start off with the least offensive case. When the player dies, players with low points are swapped to the team with fewer players. Again, these players do not have a bunch invested in the game at this point. But it's a terrible player experience, especially if you're playing with friends. The really terrible server decision is when top players start getting moved to the losing team. Most of the reason that the winning team is in a favorable position is probably because of these players. You take that terrible player experience and now add to it an unfounded reversal. For a classic example, take Sisyphus. In ancient Greek mythology, Sisyphus was a king punished to eternally roll a boulder up a hill. Whenever he'd reach the top, the boulder would roll back down and Sisyphus would have to repeat the task all over again. This punishment from the gods continued ad infinitum. So when I completely dominate the enemy team, only to be switched upon a first or second death, I feel like Sisyphus. I feel like the server is punishing me for doing well. It's never a good feeling. In fact, I swear like hell, and it's usually a rage quit moment for me. I've seen servers take it one step further and kill me while I'm still living to swap me. To which I have to wonder, are these admins sadists or just stupid? There's no rage like when you're on a kill streak and you're killed by a robot for a team swap. Oh, that is not cool. But Darth, you say, it's no fun to play on a team that's spawn camped, outnumbered, and being dominated. I agree, but I think these situations are isolated to a few maps and particularly servers that run absurd numbers of tickets. There's better ways to balance that I'll get to here in a bit. Now, I'm sure there's admins out there that think they are doing themselves a favor by running this kind of mod. After all, in theory, it keeps the server numerically balanced and populated. Assuming, of course, that the switch players don't immediately rage quit. You know, along with their whole squad of buddies. For me, I mark the server and I don't play on it again. But that's me. I want to cover a few other situations I see that are also pretty annoying. I've seen some nanny servers that try to keep the teams exactly even. For example, on a 64-player server, if there is a 2-player difference, it will immediately swap a player to the other team. With 60 or more players online, this is too much micromanagement on the part of the server. It makes it exceptionally hard for squads of friends to play together, and it's a really frustrating experience. The other situation I've seen is when a server will switch a player more than once. Talk about rage-inducing. But with all that, I've seen some great servers that handle balance really well. My favorites are those that wait until a round is done before doing any switching, and they only swap if the ticket balance was grossly in favor of one team. Even this is a little flawed since it's usually based on round score. What if somebody just had a great round but they're otherwise terrible, or vice versa? Now you've set up the next round for failure. Ideally, this would consider the entire history of the player's performance, but I don't know if servers even have access to that data. BF4 Stats, a community website, certainly seems to have that kind of power. I've seen servers keep squads or friends together when they make these moves at the end of a round. I generally like this behavior. But the problem you introduce is, what if you have a squad of ultimate badasses? You've moved them around, but the next round probably won't be balanced. Or what if during the course of the game, one really good player attracts a bunch of likewise-minded players? It's going to be pretty miserable on the other team, but that's only for a round. Ultimately, with public games being what they are, we're always going to have an imbalance of players, and there will be good ways and bad ways servers can handle this. I was thinking today that it might not be a bad idea to have public games like we have now, but to also have matchmaking in Battlefield where players could specifically sign up to join matched players. Kind of like how League of Legends, StarCraft, and other competitive games have public play and league play. That might be the only way that we get the relaxation of stomping teams who aren't better than us, and also having an option for truly balanced play. But what do you folks think? Do you like servers that balance? What do you like? What do you hate? What should the next Battlefield title try to do about team balance? Be sure to leave a comment down below with how you feel. That's it for this video on team balance. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like before you go. If you're new around here, take a look at my channel and please consider subscribing. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.